after last night's session. For those who are not here, we're talking about, we centered our discussion last night on the topic, Save the Boy Child. The project God sanctioned in Exodus 1, when the Israelites were about to be exterminated through a process of male murders. We established the fact that we are not all free of this crime in one way or another. I take my cue this morning from the same chapter and from the same verse. We began with Exodus 1. Verse 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel. I'm reading from the New American Standard Bible. Who came to Egypt with Jacob? For they came each one with his household. We are talking each one with his household. After last night's presentation, I suddenly felt highly and deeply conflicted in my soul. When it came to my realization that we are discussing a massive issue, stuff that requires more than just sermons, but action. Not just action, programmed action. That does not occur in one day, because we're talking about issues that occur over generations, over centuries. The battle we're dealing with here did not begin when somebody in South Africa murdered somebody else. It began in a garden. Things got wrong in a garden 6,000 years ago. Someone was asked, "Where are you?" He did not answer the question. Instead, he told the inquirer his condition. "I was afraid, and I hid myself from you." And that has been the condition of man throughout. We're compromised because we cannot explain why we are who we are. We explained that last night when we dealt with colonization, industrialization, and in particular the prison system, which has compromised males. We emphasized the fact that the prison is new in Africa. There were no prisons in this country, this continent. And the prison system, as long as it continues, will always conflict males, because it disrupts a family and a community for men to be kept away from their households for years. Some even die there. We also stress the fact that in prison, men redesigned who they were sexually. And that continues into the past. We're stressing the fact that we should move away from reading the Bible merely as a spiritual text. It addresses material realities. Brother Tab has just mentioned the fact that it was written over a millennium and a half. In other words, Within that span of time, the Bible has covered everything that is humanly necessary for us to know. And that's why the Bible speaks into every situation. Every situation. By the way, one of the myths we need to destroy as Adventists is to think that spirituality is above materiality. The two are one. We were created as a triad. You are spiritual, you are physical, you are mental. All these are equal in you. None is above the other. Christians tend to believe that spirituality superintends or overrides physicality. Your body is as sacred as your spirit, your soul, whatever that is in you which responds to Him. This idea that God wants my heart, just my heart, is pagan. That's why a lot of Christians, I was telling prisoners sometime last year, don't be worried about yourselves. All of us are criminals. The difference is that you have been arrested, we have not been arrested. That's the difference. All of us are criminals. The reason is that some of us have not been apprehended. And that is why the church is full of persons, some of whom should be in jail. God knows more than you know about yourself. So when we talk male issues, we're talking a national agenda. We're talking national agenda. Read the newspapers tomorrow. Males are fighting males. Go on TV, males are fighting males. The devil is fighting the male species because he knows they are the reservoir for food security, which we're going to find here. They're the protectors of the nation. The future is also located in them. We said that last night. That when you kill boys, you're destroying the future. Because we carry in us the generations to come. What does Hebrews say about Melchizedek and Abraham? Remember, Melchizedek brought bread and wine to Abraham. And Abraham gave him all the tithes of all that he had. The bread and the wine was a significance of the fact that, an indicator of the fact that out of you will come Levi, out of whom will come the priesthood. Somewhere in the history of our nation, of your nation, there will be a need for the breaking of bread and the drinking of wine. Events portend things that are bigger than them. That's why there's nothing that is not important in the realm of faith or in life. Things you do now echo into the future. You are the front face of generations that are gone. That's why there's no such thing as the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, and so on. Every present generation of the world believes that it is at the forefront of time. It is those who come later who name those ages as dark. The people who lived in the Dark Ages did not know that they were living in the midst of darkness. They thought they were in the forefront of time. In fact, they thought they were living at the end of time. Every generation believes that it lives at the end of time. They came, each one with his household. And their names are listed in order of their birth. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Some of these names have significance for us. You know, Reuben saved his brother, isn't it? Saved Joseph. They intended to kill him, isn't it? Yeah. Simeon is recorded as having been very vicious and murderous. The tribe of Levi is known for having felt sorry for the golden calf. And that's why the priests were chosen from it. Judah gave birth to kings. Issachar, not much is said about him. But there's something significant that the book of Numbers speaks, or Chronicles speaks about him. This man and his descendants. It says, the sons of Issachar knew the times and what Israel ought to do. And I think we need more of these people today. Brother Tabe said, spoke about graduates in the past and now. Today, we need people who know why they went to school. Because frankly, school has not delivered as much as we thought it would, especially in this country. We're going through a freeze must fall period, isn't it? There's going to be a day when another demand will be made. Until government and society redesigns pre-university education to entrench skills that will make young people able to generate money before they go to university. We can't spend 16 years at school and without the ability to make a shoe. It's senseless. It's education for slavery. All you know is to speak good English after grade 12. And to type something on a cell phone. But you can't even employ yourself. You have no skills to sustain your life. The reason why these men have to move is not that they did not have skills. Food, there was a food shortage among the people where they lived, in the country where they lived, Palestine, in the Middle East. Men should be marked by the characteristic of sensing danger. This is one of the things I see in this verse. Each one came with his... Now there's movement here. They're moving away because there's a resource they need to sustain their families, which has become very scarce. That's one reason. That's one of the qualities we need to teach men. Detection of harm. And unfortunately, because of high levels of serotonin in our bodies, men can go into risky issues without sensing danger. Have you noticed what happens when a car moves towards pedestrians? Women run fast across the road. Men tend to stand. You want to kill me? And at the time, the women are over the other side. Men are ready to fight back. We are like that. We don't sense danger. We don't sense danger, which is why we need women around our lives. Adam was not complete alone. In fact, the definition of man in the Bible is not male. It is man and woman. That's the definition of the Bible. Of mankind in the Bible is a combination of the man and the woman. That's why Adam carried a woman in his body. Because when God made man, he made two in Adam. And when Eve came out of the man, she was in the image that is stated in Genesis 1 verse 6. Adam did not say, this looks very strange. God, you did not design this one the way you designed me. No, instead he said, this is bone of and flesh of my flesh. Ancient Israelite communities were polygamous communities. It was common among them to marry more than one. The men, one woman. In fact, the Jews did not stop polygamy voluntarily. It was the Roman government that stopped them. Rome made it possible for Jews to go for monogamy. And we're not talking about Europeans, we're talking about Asians. Because the Jewish nation is Asian by origin. And because they were polygamous, their theories about womanhood. Every polygamous community has a particular theory about what it means to be a woman. There are communities that place men at the head of communities. That's why you often find monarchies in polygamous situations, chiefs and so on, fathers of other fathers. The king is the father of another father. So we have a stagged challenge for women, especially when the patriarchy is ill-conceived. Especially when the patriarchy is ill-conceived as not an order of authority, but an order of superiority. There's a difference here. We need to understand that men were given authority. They were not given superiority. Authority places you above other people, not because of who you are, but because of the functions you have to fulfill. You see, God does not consult Adam on how Eve should look like. In fact, when he was sent to sleep, he did not know what the outcome would be. He did not even know why he was being sent to sleep. He wakes up and he finds another creature. He was not given the option to say, I think, God, you should design her with breasts, with this, long hair, and so on. No, a tiny voice, He had no contribution on the birth of Eve. Therefore, he could not claim precedence over her. We said last night that the Hebrew says, I will make him an equal helper. Not just a helper, an equal one. And thereafter, God levels the equation. He makes all men come from all women. If the man thought, I'm the only one who can give birth to humanity. All of us here come from women. There is no man who gives birth. Of course, I know there are issues of transgenderism today and so on and on. But, and stem cell technology. One of the challenges you find as you read how these men brought up their women, gave birth to kids and so on, were jealousies. Polygamous communities are marked by sorcery, witchcraft, jealousies, and so on. One of the causes of witchcraft is polygamy. Because human beings compare, isn't it? We're creatures that make distinctions between this and that. This person and the other person. He stays for 2 days there, he stays for 1 night here. You're bound to make conclusions and suspicions. And those conclusions may lead you into a project, isn't it? They came each one with his household, individual and collective decision making. I'm speaking here burdened by the fact that we have lost institutions in this country. Colonization destroyed institutions. Institutions were not brought by Europeans to this country. We had our own institutional mechanisms for bringing boys up and for bringing girls up. We did not have schools as buildings, but we had an education system. 1652 did not land education here. It continued education. We had our own system of education. At any rate, Africa had universities long before Europe had universities. What is called the Zimbabwe ruins today was a massive palatial head office of the Kingdom of Mutapa, which included Angola, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa. In a diary of Jan van Riebeeck, he says he asked one of the Khoi servants who worked in his home, who do you people to belong to? Who do you people pay allegiance to? He says, we belong to the Kingdom of Mutapa. It's in Jan van Riebeeck's diary. Therefore, we do not arrive here in the 16th century. We've been here longer than any liar can think. Men need to be known for decisiveness. And because of the conditions under which we have grown, men have been marked by a lot of indecision about their lives. We've been affected primarily by lack of resources. The major reason why there's crime in this country is not that people are evil. Men have not been empowered with resources. So they're going to be killing and stealing and doing all sorts of things. Because one of the things that worries people, male and female, is what shall we eat tonight? That question reduces you to nothingness, to your bare minimum. If you can't have food, all else can go. Isn't it? And that is why one of the functions of manhood is food security. Food security. And I asked myself this morning as I woke up, who owns food production services in this country? Show me an Adventist food factory. In spite of all the food talk we make in the church, where is our food factory? Where do we get our vegetarian stuff? Are we a nation? Because nations are known for resources. Otherwise, you're just a captured community. In service to those who know. Where do you buy your clothes from? All of us here did not produce what you are wearing. Almost. All of us. You did not produce the food you ate this morning. You will not have produced the food you will be eating this evening. We have been turned into buyers and not thinkers and developers. All of us have to carry money to sustain ourselves. And when that money is not there, someone will rob somebody. Because we've been highly monetarized. Life is defined by how much money you have, not how developed you are. That's why we've got stewardship in this church, which primarily should not be talking money, but development. Look, Genesis 1. Verse 28. God blessed them and God said to them, this is a declaration. God is making a statement. He says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and rule over the fish of the sea. These are principles and practices of wise business management and development. Number one, be fruitful. This relates to productivity. Men, every nation should be marked by productivity. Offerings in the Bible are based on the fact that you are a producer, not a borrower. That's where stewardship begins. It begins with productivity. The next thing, multiplication. Why? For abundance. You increase the product you are producing. So next thing, you distribute it. There's distribution here. Filling the earth and you manage. Fill the earth and subdue it and rule over the fish of. In other words, we cannot rule over the fish, over the birds, over the land-based animals unless we have met all these conditions. Are we producers? When God says you have robbed me, he was not talking about lenders, borrowers, I mean. was not talking about borrowers. It was talking about people who had land, who had cattle, who knew that if they went to bed without food, they were responsible, not somebody else. We have underread the Bible. Christians should be the leaders in economic theory and practice. Because we've got a textbook here that has principles for productivity, for sustaining a nation, for food security. We depend on politicians now to tell us which way to go. That's why my cell phone has a lot of questions coming from youth particularly. Where is the verse in the Bible that says such and such? But the Bible is in his or her bedroom. The verse is there. He asked me, where is the verse? It's in the bedroom. Yeah. Why? We have not used the Bible as a manual. This is a textbook. This is a textbook for development. I'm trying to appeal to men to rethink our functions as men. The Bible is not advice. It's not a suggestion. The Bible does not function like an advisor. No, it tells you. The Bible is a developer. It says, here is the way, go ye in it. That's why God says to Jeremiah, for I know the plans I have for you. He does not say, I'm busy thinking about what should happen here. I'm also surprised, Jeremiah, why is this king really captured your people? That's the state of Christians today. We're all wondering what happened. No, sin came. That's why so and so are murdering one another. Sin came. The solution is not in psychology. It is in theology. We're spiritually twisted creatures. And we're not going to... Social workers and the police and politicians will not solve sin. Because the root of crime is evil. These men move together with their families. Implied in this verse is that these men are leaders of families. As much as is possible, let's be ready to take our families to the future. In fact, when you propose love to a woman you intend to marry, you're actually saying, by implication, I would like to live with you, number one, as long as I live. Number two, into eternity. Because love comes from Jesus. This idea, till death do us part, is not in the Bible. Because you need to see this woman in the next life. That's why you are not a king of this family, but a priest. When things go wrong, you must be the one who falls on your knees. Pray for them more than they pray for you. You have to intercede for your family. Intercede for your sons and daughters. Intercede for your wife. You are a leader. In other words, you are the leader of the salvation journey in your home. And we don't say these things to boys. And that's where the crack begins to widen. We don't tell young men, you are looking for priesthood. Are you ready for priesthood? We allow a guy who does not read the Bible to be a priest. He's merely going to be a male. He will give birth to kids, buy a car, build a house, and that has nothing to do with priesthood. It has nothing to do with taking people to the future. So there needs to be a redesign of what we mean by manhood. Lack of means always precipitates migration. That's what you see in this verse. When people have no means to sustain their lives, they move. We're nomadic. We're nomadic. That is why South Africa is burdened with a population it never planned it would have, post-1994. Because somewhere in the continent, lack hit the ground. People could not sustain their lives. And again, It is part of this failure to develop people instead of supplying food to people. People have no skills. People have no skills. Many of you who don't come from this country have left land in your countries. Unplowed, unharvested. Why? Because you are not taught how to use the land. The very place from which human beings came. In November 2007, the late Vuyo, who was that man on Morning Live? Vuyo Mbuli, yes, reported that at that time, there were about 2 million persons here from Zimbabwe. An indication of the fact that people sense a need and they move to satisfy that need. The sad thing here is that both men and women have come. You get the point? And some of them have had to leave families behind. The whole of Africa is here. I was telling somebody who works for government recently that South African government should stop thinking locally. We are running the continent. The continent is here. All the people have come here. We need to think continental. We need to plan for the continent. It is our right by reason of the challenge we are facing here. We are not running South Africa, but Africa. Because this country is now a summary of the continent. In fact, it's a summary of the whole world. The whole world is here. We need to think globally. That's why our church has also benefited membership from countries outside of here, from people who come from other countries. And we need as men to think across disciplines. Because in the absence of transgenerational thinking, we're going to do things that destroy us now. One of my major cries about our country is that this country is fueling its journey into the future on alcohol. %56% of the liquor that was used last year in this country was bought in December. 56% of it was used in 1 month. There are homes in this country where there are more bottles and cans than books. People are more ready to lift a can in this country than to lift a book. We are not a reading nation. Professor Itumeleng Musala once said in 1989, television arrived too soon for some of us. We had hardly gotten used to the text when we were made to view things. And today, the visual media dominates us. So we are in a situation that needs multiple analysis. And men need to stand up in the church and say, how do we take Sandton to the future? How do we make this church viable? We need a developmental model. I'm glad there's a plan here. And stop talking. One of the reasons why the world is run by Europeans is that Europeans go beyond talking. They institutionalize their ideas. Africans talk about ideas. We wake up in the morning and talk, and then we go back the following minute and talk again. And then we revise what we discussed the day before yesterday. And then we talk again. This thing must stop. This thing must stop. This thing must stop. We need to start creating institutions around our ideas. We're talking decolonization right now in South Africa, isn't it? You can't destroy somebody's house if you don't have one yourself. Where will you run to? First build your own house before you destroy the other man's shack. We decolonize and then what? Because the minus sign must always move along with the plus sign in life. What you remove on your left, you need to remove on the right. What you add on your left, you also add on the right. Otherwise, there's going to be no balance. There needs to be a re-engineering of the national psyche in this country. And churches are primarily responsible for that, for not doing so, because we claim we're using the book of a God who is all-knowing. but we act as though somebody else knows other than this God. Christians should be leading development in this country. Frankly, we should be leading educational design in this country. Because in the Bible, there's no government education. You read your Bible through. Government is not the provider of education. There are two levels of functions here, two levels of authority in the Bible. First is the parents. The education mandate in the Bible is a parental mandate, and then the church. Government comes later. What have we done? The devil has turned the pyramid. Government is now the primary provider of education. And that's why parents are surrendering all the blame they should be accepting to government. Government is to blame. Why can't government do this? We're talking about people, some of whom are not parented properly. They are also in need of solutions. So we've removed the family from the center of life. By the way, when God comes back, when Jesus comes back, he's going to ask one simple question. And it will be a very excruciating question. Where is the flock? He's not going to ask Zuma. I don't care, he's not going to ask Zuma. Zuma will have to answer for his flock. Where is the flock? No, the government, the councillor, Mr. Mashaba, and so on, the mayor, Mahashule. No. God wants to know, where is the flock I gave you? That's why one of the crimes we have in this country as a church, we've over-supported the projects of other people and not created our own projects. So it doesn't cut any cheese with me. For Adventists to stand up and criticize Adventist institutions they never built. Most of the institutions we have complained about were built by missionaries. Where are the schools that we have built? Where are the schools that we have built? I'm asking the question. So Lucy and some of the schools in Zimbabwe were built by the Anderson family. Where are the schools you built? In South Africa, we're complaining about the fact that Bethel was closed down. So where is the school that we built? It's a scandal that we are now holding high institutions we never built, government institutions and other private institutions, but we have none to show to our future generation. That's why young people are wondering, what is church about? What is church really about? Is there a future in the church? The future in the church. We need to move away from just thinking that worship is the only thing we need to do. God is expecting us to be developmental in our thinking and our practice. And we need to admit as men that somewhere along the way we have failed. We've created slavery in the church. We've turned members into slaves by telling them that the only thing God needs from you is your heart. I'm not far from ending. The challenges are 7. Individual responsibility. How responsible are you as a man? Number 2, individual accountability. 3, decision-based action. Are we intentional? Are we able to associate responsibility with consequences? Are we able to provide solutions to a nation crying for help? We need more than thinkers now. We need practitioners now. Action is the best message and heritage we can leave for our children. As men, we need to turn our churches into institutions for development and merely not for worship. The synagogue was the center of national development among the Jews. The church in the Christian community has not played that role. It's merely a place we visit once a week. That's why there are communities today that are questioning why government is giving land to buildings that are warmed only once a week. In case some of our churches are facing that challenge. I'll tell you a little story and then close. There's a plot next to the church where I have membership in Zola. Large plot. Originally, that plot had been given to a church. Recently, a church asked for use of that plot to build its own structure. So the councillor called the people around, and the people said to him, "How many churches do we have in this area?" He gave them the number. And then they asked him, "Do you want to add another useless building here when we have a need for housing?" That application was failed. Look at how Muslims build their churches. They are institutions for membership development. We need to move away from building churches for worship only. I'm glad you're adopting the concept of centers of influence. May God bless us as men to start thinking differently, developmentally, holistically, and progressively. God is expecting of us a report one of these days. What shall we tell him we did? That's the question I would like to leave with you.